Growing up, my childhood didn't look anything like the warm, picture-perfect families I saw on TV. Those shows where every child felt valued, where parents spread love evenly like it was second nature. That wasn't my world. In our house, affection wasn't shared. It was handed out like a special privilege meant for only one person. And that person was never me. My name is Keisha Barnes, the second of 4 children. My older brother, Darius, came 2 years before me, and my younger twin sisters, Shanice and Layla, arrived when I was barely stepping into my teenage years. We lived in a small Louisiana town where folks knew your grandparents, your cousins, and your business. And because everybody knew everybody, the difference in how my parents treated me compared to Darius was not only obvious to me, it was obvious to the whole neighborhood. Responsibility wasn't something I learned as I grew up. It was handed to me early like a duty I never asked for. While other kids spent their afternoons jumping rope in the street or riding their bikes until the porch lights came on, I was in the kitchen helping my mom cook, or in the living room rocking one of the twins to sleep. While classmates signed up for cheer or choir, I was changing diapers, sweeping floors, and making bottles. "You're the big sister. You gotta help your mama," was a line I heard so many times it felt like a rule carved into the walls of our house. My parents, Mr. Clarence and Miss Regina, worked hard for a living. My dad fixed machinery at a local plant, often coming home tired and smelling of grease. My mom worked the register over at a small convenience store, spending the rest of her time running our household. We didn't have a lot, but we managed. And honestly, lack of money wasn't what hurt, it was the favoritism. It seemed like everything in our home revolved around Darius, the firstborn son. My dad would say it with pride, patting Darius on the back like he was destined for greatness just because he was a boy. One day, "That boy gone carry on the barn's name," Daddy would say, smiling like he already saw Darius' picture hanging on some wall of fame. Those words clung to me like a reminder. I wasn't the oldest, I wasn't the son, and I definitely wasn't the baby who got fussed over. Darius got the best of everything, from extra food portions to brand-name sneakers on his birthdays, while I learned early how to settle for less. When Darius turned 17, my parents managed to pull their savings together and bought him a beat-up used car so he could get to school and football practice. But when I hit the same age, all I got was a card and a few words from Mama. "Keep your head in those books, Keisha. One day you'll buy your own." I never hated Darius. He wasn't rude or mean to me. If anything, that made it even harder. He didn't have to do anything to earn their love. He just existed, and they adored him. It was like the world had already decided his worth, while I had to fight to prove mine. Still, I stayed quiet. Experience taught me that speaking up only got me the same rehearsed lines. "We love all y'all the same," or "Stop comparing yourself to your brother." So, I did my chores, babysat the twins, kept my grades up, and learned not to expect any thank you. I kept telling myself that one day things would change, that if I worked hard enough, life would finally be fair to me. But I was wrong. Some things remain the same no matter how much you give, and no matter how deeply you hope. And I realized early that if I wanted a different kind of life, I would have to build it myself, brick by brick, without waiting for anyone to rescue me. Education became my lifeline. I didn't choose a major based on passion. I chose what would guarantee a job. I picked business and accounting, not because it excited me, but because it felt safe. When I told my parents, Mama only nodded and Daddy barely responded. Darius smirked and said, "Accounting? You sure you can handle that?" I said nothing. I just packed my determination along with my clothes. When I left for college a few hours away in Baton Rouge, nobody came to see me off. No tears, no hugs full of pride, just Mama giving me a quick embrace at the door and saying, "Take care of yourself now, Keisha." My parents saved a little for my tuition, but it barely covered anything. If I wanted to survive, I had to hustle. So I did. From my very first semester, I worked part-time at a small coffee shop just off campus. Days were for classes. Nights were for steaming milk, wiping down counters, and serving caffeine to tired students and professors. I dragged myself back to the dorm with sore feet and a throbbing headache, but quitting was never an option. Every good grade reminded me why I was doing all this. I was building a life that wouldn't look anything like the one I came from. I refused to end up like my parents, tired, stuck, and surviving on hope alone. I wanted more. Even with my busy schedule, I try to stay connected to my family, mostly for the twins' sake. I called home every Sunday evening. Usually, Mama did most of the talking, complaining about bills or how tired she was, then praising Darius for whatever small thing he'd done that week. "He's doing good at that office job," she'd say proudly, as if he had become CEO of the whole company. The more she talked about him, the quieter I felt inside. I wasn't jealous anymore, not the way I once was. I had just grown numb. It's strange when your heart slowly stops expecting what it never received. The only bright part of those calls was hearing the twins' voices. Shanice and Layla always rushed to the phone to share stories about their new friends, music they were into, or funny things that happened at school. They said they missed me. I told them I missed them too. But deep down, I knew I wasn't going back not to stay. Daddy rarely spoke to me at all. If he got on the phone, it was only long enough to say, "How's school? You doing all right?" before handing the phone back like talking to me drained him. Years passed quicker than I expected. I graduated with honors, not because I was naturally gifted, but because I had worked harder than most. No one from my family came to my graduation ceremony. Mama said Daddy had a shift, and the twins had no way to get there. I didn't bother asking about Darius. By then, I already knew better. But as I stood there in my cap and gown, holding that diploma, I felt something I had been waiting for my whole life: pride. My success was mine. I had earned it on my own. Right after graduation, I landed a job at a respected financial company in New Orleans. The pay wasn't amazing, but it was a foot in the door. When I called Mama to share the news, she paused before asking, "So, you ain't thinking of coming back home?" I closed my eyes. That question had been sitting on her tongue for years. I could hear the hope behind it, the expectation that eventually I'd fall back into the old role they had carved for me. "No, Ma. There's more for me out here. I need to stay." She exhaled into the phone, a long, tired sigh. I couldn't tell if it was disappointment or acceptance, but I didn't need her approval anymore. I belonged to a bigger world now. But the past has a way of circling back, even when you think you escaped it. I had no idea that my career would eventually lead me right back to the very place I fought so hard to leave. After almost 4 years away, life threw something unexpected my way. My company wanted to expand by opening a new branch in my hometown, and they chose me to manage it. It was a major step up in my career. More responsibility, more pay, a leadership position people twice my age were still fighting for. I didn't need time to think. I said yes. Ambition outweighed hesitation. Mama was thrilled when I told her, "Oh, baby, you can stay right here with me and the girls. It'll be just like before." I had planned on finding my own spot, but after her pressuring me with guilt and, family's supposed to stay together, I agreed to stay for a short while. The day I returned to that old house, it felt smaller than I remembered, like the walls had moved in over the years. The porch, the squeaky front door, it all looked the same, but something in the air was different. The twins ran to me first, hugging me tight and talking over each other with excitement. Mama smiled wide, bustling around the kitchen. Daddy just nodded from his recliner, eyes glued to the TV. No welcome home. No smile, just a nod. One face was missing. Darius. Mama said he had moved out to live with his fiancée, a woman named Monique. The first time I heard that name was from Mama's mouth, and I could already tell by the way she said it that this woman came with a presence. She come from a well-off family, Mama said softly, like she was describing royalty. Her daddy owned a chain of businesses. Darius worked for him now. A chill crept through me. I didn't need details to know where this was going. And I was right. I met Monique for the first time shortly after I returned. Darius brought her over for dinner. He walked in wearing a tailored blazer like he was in a magazine shoot, smiling like life had always been easy for him. But it was the woman next to him who caught my attention. Monique was tall, slim, polished from head to toe, hair laid, nails immaculate, and wrapped in a coat that I knew cost more than my monthly rent. "Well, Keisha," she said, looking me up and down with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I've heard so much about you." Something in her tone rubbed me wrong. It wasn't what she said, it was what she meant. And as the evening unfolded, it became clear. Monique didn't just feel superior. She wanted everyone in the room to know she was. That dinner was one of the longest nights I had sat through in a while. Monique didn't waste a second making sure we all understood the lifestyle she was accustomed to. She spoke endlessly about her latest vacations, upscale restaurants in New Orleans, and fancy charity events her family attended. It wasn't the bragging itself that bothered me, it was the way she delivered it, like we were some charity case she had decided to visit for the evening. What stung worse was how she spoke about our home. When Darius told me about where y'all lived, I was picturing something a bit larger, she said as she set her wine glass down, the kind of comment wrapped in sugar but meant to cut deep. Shanice and Layla stared at their plates. Mama forced a smile so tight it looked painful. Daddy didn't respond at all, just kept eating, pretending not to notice the disrespect. I glanced at Darius, expecting him to defend us, even lightly. But he just sat there, nodding at Monique with a proud grin, as if every word she said was a compliment instead of an insult. After dinner, while the twins and I washed dishes, I asked under my breath, "So, how do y'all feel about Monique?" The girls exchanged a look before Shanice finally whispered, "She don't like us." Layla added, "Last time she came over, she told Mama our clothes looked cheap." A slow heat built in my chest, not just anger at Monique, but at how easily my family let her talk down to them. Something told me what I saw that night was only the surface. And I was right. Once Monique entered our lives, everything in that house shifted. It wasn't just that she believed she was the center of attention, she expected control. Mama jumped through hoops trying to impress her, as if Monique's approval was worth gold. Daddy treated her like a badge of honor because she came from money. Darius acted like he had finally made it in life, and marrying Monique was his trophy. But things reached another level when wedding planning began. Monique didn't want a regular Southern church wedding like most folks in town. She wanted something extravagant, flashy, and worthy of headlines. Venue, catering, decor. Everything had to be top tier, and she had a long list of expectations. One evening, she gathered us in the living room. "I've decided that y'all will be in my bridal party," she said, gesturing at me, Shanice, and Layla like she was assigning roles in a play. "We're putting together a special dance for the reception, and every bridesmaid needs to rehearse so we look perfect." I blinked. A dance. Monique laughed in that fake, playful way that felt more like mocking. "Oh, Keisha, don't look scared. It's not some little step routine. I hired a professional choreographer. We're putting on a full performance." I looked at the twins and saw discomfort written all over them. They were shy enough as it was. This wasn't their thing. And it definitely wasn't mine. "I won't be able to dance," I said calmly. "I had a back injury in college. Certain movements still cause pain." Silence filled the room. A flash of irritation crossed Monique's face before she masked it behind that polished smile. "Well then," she said slowly, arms crossing, "you can make up for it another way." My gut tightened. "What do you mean?" She tilted her head like she was being reasonable. "Since you won't be contributing to the performance, it's only fair that you contribute financially to the wedding instead." I narrowed my eyes. "How much?" "Just a small contribution, $5,000. That should cover the cost I'll incur, because you can't participate." I stared at her. Surely she was joking. "You can't be serious." "Oh, I am," she said sweetly. "Everybody plays their part. If you can't support the wedding visually, the least you can do is help with expenses." I turned to Darius, waiting, hoping for him to step in, to tell her she was out of line, to show he still had some piece of the brother I once knew. He looked everywhere but at me. The anger that hit me felt like a match to gasoline. "No," I said, standing up. "I'm not your little puppet, Monique, and I don't owe you a dime." Monique arched a brow. "Really? Then maybe you should think again. Because if you don't help, your family might find themselves in a difficult situation." I looked at Mama and Daddy, waiting for them to stand up for us. To say something. Anything. Nothing. They sat there silent, almost submissive, as if Monique spoke for them. A sadness deeper than anger settled in me. In that moment, I knew I had nobody in that house on my side, not even my parents. "If that's how it is," I said quietly, "then I won't be part of this mess." I walked out of that living room, each step echoing like a closing chapter. Mama called after me, her voice shaky. "Keisha, you know how important Darius is." I turned back. "Is Darius so important that you'll let Monique disrespect this whole family?" Mama lowered her head, avoiding my eyes. Daddy finally spoke, his voice cold and firm. "If you can't support this family, maybe you don't need to be here." My heart hardened right then. Say less. I packed my things the next morning and moved into the apartment my company arranged. For the first time in years, I was living alone, not as the invisible child or the responsible sister, but as a woman free from the weight of other people's expectations. But even as I settled into my new life, I knew one thing. Monique wasn't done, and my family had no idea what losing me truly meant. 3 months passed after I walked out of that house. Life became quieter, calmer, almost peaceful. Work kept me busy, and focusing on my new role helped me push away the sting of what had happened. The phone calls with home grew fewer. At first, Mama called every few days trying to persuade me to come back and be reasonable. I kept my responses short. Eventually, she stopped calling altogether. Darius never reached out. Daddy certainly didn't. Only Shanice and Layla sent occasional texts, short, careful messages, like they were afraid someone might see. Then one stormy night, close to midnight, I heard frantic knocking at my door. It was pouring outside, and thunder shook the windows. I opened the door and froze. Shanice and Layla stood on my doorstep soaked to the skin, shivering, their eyes swollen from crying. "Can we stay here?" Shanice whispered, her voice trembling. "Please." I pulled them inside immediately, grabbing towels and blankets, trying to warm them up. When they finally sat down on the couch, I got a good look at them. They looked nothing like the bright, bubbly girls I remembered. They looked drained, like life had been squeezing the joy out of them drop by drop. "What happened?" I asked softly. Layla wiped her face with the back of her hand. "We can't stay there anymore." Piece by piece, the story spilled out. After I left, Monique tightened her grip on the house like she owned it. She didn't treat Shanice and Layla like family. She treated them like unpaid help. They were expected to clean the house from top to bottom, wash dishes, cook meals, anything Monique didn't feel like doing. "She made us hand wash her clothes," Shanice said bitterly. Said the washing machine would ruin her designer stuff. Layla's hands balled into fists. "And if we messed up anything, even small, she'd call Mama and lie, say we disrespected her. Mama always took her side." I felt my jaw clench. "What about Darius?" They looked at each other, then Shanice laughed, but it was a broken kind of laugh. "He didn't do a thing. One time she yelled at us right in front of him, and he just sat there eating like it was normal. Like we deserved it." Hearing that hit me in a place I thought had already gone numb. I always knew Monique was toxic, but to see my own parents allow it, to see my brother watch it happen, it cut deeper than anything they had done to me. "You're not going back there," I said firmly. "Not ever. You staying here with me now." The twins broke down again. This time, the tears sounded like relief, not fear. The next few days were an adjustment. My apartment was small, but we made it work. I set ground rules. They didn't need to be caretakers, maids, or punching bags for anyone anymore. They could breathe here. I helped Shanice and Layla talk through their options. Shanice wanted to save money and eventually get her own place. Layla wanted to continue studying, something she never had the chance to focus on. Using a few connections at work, I got Shanice a part-time job at a small bookstore downtown, quiet, safe, and run by kind people. Layla enrolled in a local graphic design course, something she had always shown talent for but was never encouraged to pursue. Mama called several times, begging the girls to come home. "Family's supposed to stick together, Keisha," she said, voice full of guilt-tripping. "You can't snatch your sisters away just 'cause you mad at Monique." I try to stay calm. "What family, Ma?" The family that let Monique boss them around? The family that sat silent while she treated Shanice and Layla like servants? The family that cares more about Darius' status than our well-being? Silence. Then Mama's low voice. "So this is your final decision?" I looked at the twins sitting beside me. They didn't hesitate. They nodded. "Yes," I said. "For all of us." Mama didn't call again after that. Slowly, the three of us built a new rhythm, one filled with small joys. Shanice worked hard and saved every penny, proud of her first paychecks. Layla came home excited to show me her latest designs and assignments. I focused on my career, determined to provide a safe home for them. No calls came from Daddy. No texts from Darius. They pretended we didn't exist. Strangely, I felt lighter because of it. I was done chasing people who never chose me. One day, while cleaning the closet, Layla came across an old family photo tucked inside a box. We all stared at it silently. Darius stood next to Daddy, both of them grinning proudly. Mama held the twins when they were toddlers, smiling big. I stood a little behind everyone, my smile small, almost uncertain, like even then, I knew my place in that family. Layla looked at me quietly. "Do you miss them?" I didn't answer right away. The memories hit, not just the bad ones, but the good moments too. Even unhealthy families have a few good memories. That's what makes letting go so hard. I think I miss the idea of what we could have been, I said finally, but not enough to go back. Shanice sighed. I kept hoping one day Mama and Daddy would realize how they treated us and change. I shook my head slowly. Some folks don't change. Some don't apologize. And some would rather lose good family than admit they were wrong. That truth hurt, but it was the truth we needed. Our parents chose Darius. They chose Monique. They chose appearances and pride over their own daughters. But we had chosen each other. We weren't broken. We were rebuilding. As weeks turned into months, the three of us settled into a life that felt peaceful. There were no parents watching our every move, no walking on eggshells to avoid upsetting someone, no roles forced on us. It was the first time we lived without being told who we had to be. We created our own little family right there in that tiny apartment. We cooked dinner together, laughed over board games, and celebrated even the smallest victories. Shanice saved enough to start looking for her own place. Layla's confidence blossomed through her graphic design projects. And I threw myself into my career, grateful that my hard work could finally benefit people who truly appreciated me. Months passed with no contact from home. No calls. No, we miss you. No apology. Not even curiosity about how we were doing. If it had been years earlier, that silence would have broken me. Now, it just confirmed what I had known in my heart. We were only valued when we were useful to them. One evening, Layla came into the living room holding her laptop, eyes shining. "Keisha, look!" she said, showing me a design she made for a local business. They loved it. They want me to create a full logo package. The pride I felt in that moment was the kind parents are supposed to feel. I hugged her tight. I knew you could do it. You just needed someone to believe in you. Shanice grinned, and someone to tell Monique to kiss the bottom of her shoe. We burst into laughter, laughter free of fear or guilt. Before bed that night, I sat for a while just thinking. About Mama, about Daddy, about Darius, about how much they had shaped me, both through love withheld and expectations pushed. I once dreamed of proving myself to them. I thought if I worked hard enough, succeeded enough, stayed loyal enough, I would earn their equal love. But now, I didn't need it. I didn't crave it. I had built something they never gave me. A life where I knew my worth. One afternoon, while organizing a drawer, I came across the same old family photo we found weeks earlier. I looked at that younger version of me, standing behind everyone, quiet, unsure, trying to blend in. I whispered to her, "You made it out. You chose you." And that alone made all the pain worth it. Layla eventually asked me a question that made all three of us pause. "Do you think we'll ever talk to them again? Mama, Daddy, Darius?" I thought for a long moment. Maybe, maybe not. But if they ever come back into our lives, it has to be with respect. No more begging for love. No more taking scraps. If they want to be part of our world, it'll be on healthy terms. Shanice nodded firmly. And if not, we still got each other. She was right. Blood makes you related, but love and respect make you family. Our story wasn't about cutting off family to be cold or bitter. It was about choosing peace over pain, healing over history, and self-love over obligation. I didn't regret walking away. I didn't regret choosing my own path. For the first time in my life, I felt free. We might not have had a traditional family anymore, but the bond we had now was stronger, healthier, and real. No matter what our past looked like, the future was ours to build. And we were building it with love, courage, and the kind of sisterhood no one could take away. Keisha's story is a reminder that family isn't defined by who shares your last name, but by who shows up for you, respects you, supports you, and values your heart. Sometimes the people you expect to love you simply don't know how. And sometimes you must walk away to break generational cycles and create a new legacy. If you were in Keisha's position, what would you have done? Would you stay for the sake of family or choose peace like she did? Share your thoughts and reflections. If this story touched you, subscribe for more real-life stories and lessons that heal, teach, and empower. Don't forget to like, share, and hit that follow button so you don't miss the next episode.